What happens when two powerful personalities collide on live television and a simple interview spirals completely out of control? Today's story explores a fictional, high-stakes confrontation between Joy Behar and Jennifer Lopez, imagining how one tense exchange could turn into one of daytime television's most shocking moments. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below. Now, let's dive in. The day began like any other taping. Jennifer Lopez arrived at the studio looking elegant in a cream-colored blazer, her hair flawlessly styled as she prepared to promote her latest project. The cameras were ready, the lights were set, and the audience buzzed with anticipation. Joy Behar sat comfortably in her usual seat, reviewing her notes as the show went live. "Welcome back to The View," Joy said with her trademark smile. "Today we're joined by the incredible Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer, it's always wonderful to have you with us." Jennifer smiled warmly. "Thank you, Joy. It's always a pleasure to be here." The conversation flowed naturally at first. They discussed Jennifer's latest business ventures, recent performances, and family life. Joy praised her work ethic and enduring success, while the audience laughed, applauded, and enjoyed the friendly exchange. Everything seemed to be going perfectly. Then Joy leaned forward with a more serious expression. "You've spent decades in the entertainment industry," she began. "You've witnessed tremendous changes, especially regarding how women are treated. What's your perspective on accountability and cancel culture?" Jennifer paused before answering. "It's a complicated issue," she replied thoughtfully. "I absolutely believe in accountability. At the same time, I think we have to be careful not to destroy someone's life over misunderstandings or mistakes." Joy nodded, but her expression suggested she wanted to push further. "Some people argue that celebrities are held to different standards," she continued. "Do you think everyone should be judged the same way?" Jennifer maintained her composure. "I'm not sure who you're referring to," she said carefully, "but I believe everyone deserves to be treated fairly, regardless of their status." The atmosphere in the studio subtly shifted. Joy's smile faded just enough for viewers to notice. "Because there have been stories," she said, suggesting that some public figures present one image to the world while behaving very differently behind the scenes. The audience grew noticeably quieter. Jennifer's publicist, seated off-camera, looked uneasy. The other hosts exchanged uncertain glances. "Joy," Jennifer said calmly, though her tone had sharpened, "I'm here to discuss my work and my projects. If there's something specific you'd like to ask, I'd appreciate you asking it directly." For a brief moment, the room fell silent. Instead of changing the subject, Joy decided to continue. "All right," she said. "Let's be direct." The tension in the studio immediately intensified. Realizing the conversation had slipped out of her control, Joy quickly tried to soften her previous remarks and recover the situation. "Jennifer, what exactly are you saying?" Joy began, but Jennifer immediately cut her off before she could continue. "So your goal was simply to stir up controversy for ratings?" Jennifer asked sharply. "You thought tearing another woman down would make good television?" Joy's expression immediately tightened. Jennifer's response landed with undeniable force. The longtime television personality wasn't accustomed to being confronted so openly, especially while sitting at her own table. She could almost feel millions of viewers watching every uncomfortable second unfold. "Now hold on," Joy replied, raising her voice. "I've been interviewing people for decades, and asking difficult questions is part of my job. That's what responsible journalism is supposed to be." Jennifer let out a dry, sarcastic laugh that echoed through the suddenly silent studio. "Journalism? Is that really what you're calling this? Where's the evidence? Where are the verified facts? You're making serious claims based on rumors and gossip." The other panelists finally attempted to calm the situation. Whoopi cautiously leaned forward. "Ladies, maybe we should." "No, Jennifer interrupted firmly, lifting a hand while never breaking eye contact with Joy. I'd like to hear her explain. Tell me exactly what you believe I've done. Joy's confidence was clearly fading, but her pride wouldn't allow her to retreat. There have been stories about your behavior on film sets, she said. People have claimed you demand special treatment and can be difficult to work with. Stories from whom? Jennifer shot back. Name one individual. Give me one concrete example. You can't toss out vague accusations and pretend that's professional reporting. The atmosphere in the studio became almost unbearable. Joy nervously shuffled through her notes, searching for something that could support what she'd already said. I can't reveal confidential sources, she replied unsteadily. That's standard journalistic practice. Jennifer narrowed her eyes. Sources? Joy, let's be honest. You don't have any. You're recycling tabloid headlines and presenting them as though they're established facts. That comment clearly struck a nerve. Joy's face flushed with anger. How dare you question my credibility, she snapped. I've worked in this industry longer than you've been a household name. And that experience should have taught you to be more careful, Jennifer answered. Not more reckless. The audience watched in stunned silence. Some discreetly reached for their phones, while others sat frozen, unable to believe the confrontation unfolding before them. Joy suddenly stood, matching Jennifer's posture. I won't tolerate this level of disrespect, she declared. Especially from someone who acts like she's above accountability. Accountable for what? Jennifer demanded, her calm demeanor finally disappearing. You keep repeating that word, but what exactly am I supposed to answer for? Working hard? Building a successful career? Having high standards? High standards? Joy echoed sarcastically. Is that your way of describing how you treat people around you? Jennifer stared at her in disbelief. What are you talking about? Do you even hear what you're saying? You're inventing accusations as this conversation goes on. Behind the cameras, the control room erupted into frantic discussion. Producers debated whether to cut away, but they also knew the audience numbers were likely soaring. The exchange had become impossible to ignore. I'm not inventing anything, Joy insisted, though her voice lacked its earlier certainty. There are people who've worked with you who tell a completely different story. Then invite them here, Jennifer challenged immediately. If those people exist, let them speak publicly. Don't hide behind anonymous claims like an internet gossip page. Joy opened her mouth, but no names came. It was obvious she had no one ready to support her allegations. Jennifer recognized the hesitation instantly. That's exactly what I expected, she continued. You don't have solid evidence. You're creating controversy because conflict attracts viewers. That accusation pushed Joy over the edge. Anger spread across her face. My ratings, she fired back. This program was successful long before you ever sat at this table, and it'll continue long after people move on from your latest project. Jennifer's voice became calm but unmistakably firm. Is that supposed to be a threat? Joy didn't hesitate. No, she answered. It's simply reality. Joy's patience finally broke. So you think you can walk onto my show and disrespect me in front of my own audience? You honestly believe being a celebrity makes you immune from criticism? Jennifer calmly stepped closer, and for a brief second the tension became so intense that the audience wondered if the confrontation might turn physical. A collective gasp swept across the studio. Joy's face drained of color before flushing bright red once again. Desperation. Joy fired back. If we're talking about desperation, let's discuss someone who's been relying on the exact same public image for 2 decades. Jennifer didn't hesitate. At least it's an image people respect. She tilted her head slightly. Tell me, Joy, what's yours? The woman who's built a reputation by tearing other women apart for entertainment. The words hung in the air as complete silence settled over the studio. Joy stood frozen, visibly stunned by the comeback. She glanced around the set as though suddenly realizing every camera was fixed on her. The room remained perfectly still. It was obvious the conversation had slipped entirely out of her control. Joy's expression shifted from anger to disbelief and back again. Every emotion played across her face as she became painfully aware that millions of viewers were witnessing the moment live. "You know what?" she finally said, her voice trembling with frustration. "I don't have to sit here and accept this from someone who believes she's above everyone else." Jennifer folded her arms, completely unfazed. "Accept what?" she replied. "I'm simply responding to accusations that had no evidence behind them. If being challenged bothers you this much, maybe you should rethink how you conduct interviews." The remark landed hard. Joy blinked in disbelief. "Are you seriously lecturing me about my profession on my own program?" "Apparently someone has to," Jennifer answered evenly. "What happened here wasn't journalism. It wasn't responsible interviewing, and it certainly wasn't professional." Joy's fists tightened at her sides. "Professional," she repeated. "I've been hosting television shows since long before you ever stepped in front of a camera. And yet you're reacting like someone with no experience at all," Jennifer replied. "Years in the business only matter if you've learned something from them." The other hosts sat in stunned silence. The argument had escalated so dramatically that no one seemed to know how to interrupt. Whoopi tried several times to speak, only to stop herself as the confrontation intensified, while the rest of the panel watched with obvious disbelief. "That's enough," Joy suddenly declared, pulling out her earpiece so forcefully that it bounced across the tabletop. "I'm finished. Absolutely finished with this level of disrespect." "Joy, wait," Whoopi finally said, reaching toward her. "No," Joy snapped, briefly directing her frustration toward her co-host before turning back to Jennifer. "This woman comes onto our show, questions my integrity, insults me, and then tells me how to do my own job. I'm not going to tolerate it." Jennifer remained composed, which only seemed to intensify Joy's frustration. "I didn't insult you," Jennifer replied calmly. "I defended myself after being attacked without cause. If that feels insulting, maybe it's worth asking why." "My behavior?" Joy exclaimed, her voice cracking with emotion. "I asked reasonable questions about concerns people have raised." "No," Jennifer answered firmly. "You repeated broad accusations without presenting a single piece of evidence. That's not investigative journalism, that's spreading rumors." Frustrated beyond words, Joy turned directly toward the cameras, gesturing passionately as she began addressing the audience watching at home. Joy turned toward the cameras. "America, are you watching this? This is what happens when celebrities think they're beyond criticism. Instead of answering the questions, they attack the person asking them." "What questions?" Jennifer called back. "You never asked any. You repeated speculation and rumors." Joy spun around, pointing directly at Jennifer. "Don't twist my words. Everyone here heard exactly what happened." "They certainly did," Jennifer replied. "They watched you make claims you couldn't support, rely on unnamed sources, and get upset when someone asked for proof." Behind the scenes, producers frantically motioned for a commercial break. But Joy no longer seemed interested in television rules or the production team's signals. "You know what, Jennifer," she said, lowering her voice until it became almost eerily calm. "I've spent enough years in this industry to recognize when someone is putting on a performance. That wholesome, hard-working family image you've built. People are starting to see through it." Jennifer's expression hardened. "My family is not part of this conversation." "Really?" Joy replied. "Because you don't seem to mind mentioning them whenever it benefits your public image." The atmosphere instantly changed. Jennifer's eyes narrowed as her patience finally reached its limit. "How dare you bring my children into this," she said quietly. "Whatever disagreement you have with me, leave my family out of it." Joy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Jealous? Is that what you think this is? I'm talking about carefully managed publicity, endless headlines, and always needing to stay in the spotlight." The audience reacted with another collective gasp. Even members of the camera crew exchanged uneasy glances. Jennifer stepped forward, and for a split second everyone held their breath. "You're embarrassing yourself," Jennifer said with controlled precision. "Not because you're questioning me but because you're doing it without facts." Joy's confidence visibly wavered. "Embarrassing? I've built a television career that has lasted for decades. And what are people talking about right now?" Jennifer answered. "Not your accomplishments but how you've handled this interview. They're watching a host lose control of the conversation and let emotion replace evidence." Joy slowly looked around the studio, suddenly aware of every camera, every crew member, and every silent face staring back at her. "This has gotten completely out of hand," she muttered, though the certainty had disappeared from her voice. "I don't have to stay here." Jennifer nodded calmly. "That's your decision." For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Joy reached beneath the desk, picked up her bag with trembling hands, and headed toward the exit without another glance at the panel. The studio filled with quiet whispers as everyone watched her leave. Just before reaching the door, she paused and looked back. "This isn't over," she said. "Eventually, the truth has a way of coming out." Jennifer remained where she was. "The audience has already seen enough to make up their own minds," she replied. The studio doors closed, leaving an uneasy silence behind. Jennifer slowly returned to her seat, straightened her blazer, and took a steady breath. "Well," she said, looking toward the remaining hosts with a faint smile, "should we get back to why I came here today?" The tension gradually eased as the panel attempted to move on, though the unforgettable exchange lingered over the entire studio. The fictional confrontation came to a close with both women heading in different directions, leaving viewers to debate who had handled the heated exchange better. If you enjoyed this dramatic story, don't forget to subscribe for more celebrity-inspired entertainment and share your thoughts in the comments about who you think won the debate.